Welcome to the Media Chat Room. We interview trailblazers and industry leaders who are making a difference. Brought to you by Good Talent Media.
Well, John, that was an amazing chat with Phil Hayes-Brown. He's a leader in the disability sector. He's got an MBA background. He's lived, travelled, worked all over the world, ex-lawyer who's walked out of the building. I mean, what a guy.
Yeah, what's he ever done apart from live in Singapore, Paris, London, Hong Kong, and Southern California? No, it was really interesting to talk to Phil about life, philosophically, why he's so positive and he gets his energy and sort of the fire in his eyes every day. A bit about his legacy and his work at Wallara and what his personal connection to that is. And ultimately, what he considers to be his greatest achievement. So, Tony, it's probably one of the best chats we've done. I really, really enjoyed it. Great to hear his thoughts.
I agree. I mean, he told us a lot about his daughter, Phoebe, all of her challenges, but all of the joy in her life as well. His dreams as a father for her and for everyone living in disability in this country. Some advice for the government as well, John, obviously.
Oh, some great insights.
Yeah, so I think in listening to this podcast, you're meeting a real leader in business and society, a very strong voice, an inspirational guy. We hope you enjoy it. Well, welcome to the Media Chat Room, and it's a great series that we're kicking off here, John, because we're getting to meet some of our clients, and you and I have been talking for some time now ad nauseum about how to do media and how not to do media and how to build your profile. But John, it's exciting to dive deep with Phil Hayes-Brown today because he's one of our more ambitious clients who's not afraid to get dirty and say what he really thinks. And John, he's making a big impact in the disability sector.
Yeah. Look, it's fantastic to have a chat with Phil today. I've had the privilege of knowing Phil for about 4 years, I think. And Tony, I know you know Phil before that and go way back. And this is a sort of second time I've had the opportunity to work with Phil and Wallara. And what I love about you, Phil, and it's probably something I'm going to ask you today, is you always bring an incredible amount of energy and sort of fire behind the eyes to the work that you do. And I'd like to know how do you actually maintain that energy and that sort of focus, because you always do bring great energy to what you do.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I think I've always been, a bit caffeinated, maybe. When I was in sports, I rose to the challenge, if you like, got excited. I guess I got excited about what I did. I have been lucky to work in jobs where I've believed in what I'm doing, and I guess no more so than this one. When I was a lawyer, I don't think I felt the same connection, to billing people for every 6 minutes that I spent with them. But certainly sports, I believed in basketball, and so I was passionate about that. But this is even more so in the disability space. And I'm reminded about what I do, I guess, every morning when my daughter wakes up, and I drop her off at services. So
it's a huge story, isn't it, from the MBA to the disability space. Talk us through that. How's that possible?
Well, it all began, I love basketball, wasn't very good. I was a lawyer, so it starts there, really. I did a law degree and started working with a big commercial law firm and didn't love that, I got to say. Billing every 6 minutes, for your time. I'd have clients call me wanting to chat, and I'd be getting into the conversation. They'd say, Phil, I'm going to go now. I can't afford to talk to you anymore. That's that whole, anyway, didn't love the whole legal thing, and got into sports. And that was a dream job for me, working inside the NBA. I just knocked on doors and pitched. And luckily for me, they had a small office in Melbourne. This is in about 1994. So anyone who knows basketball knows Luke Longley, pretty famous Aussie. He was playing with Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls and all the rest of it. So the NBA was on a real upswing, and they had an office in Melbourne. And I knocked on doors, and I played basketball, and I was a lawyer, and they gave me a job looking after consumer products. So that was led to 12 years with the NBA. So that was an enormous amount of fun. We had our son in London, who's now 24, and he chased basketball dream, but now is a ruck with Richmond on the AFL list, and our daughter Phoebe, who is now a client at Wallara. So I guess in my world, somehow the professional side and the personal sides have been very close together. So that makes it easy to get excited about the day.
What were your big learnings from the NBA, Phil? Because I used to be a sports journalist, and I love sports, and I know you like to draw insights from that world and draw them into your current world. What were the biggest insights and experiences? I'm sure there were many, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I went to about 10 All-Star weekends. So anyone who gets excited about the NBA probably knows about All-Star weekend when they all gather somewhere to, a showcase of basketball and everything. And so they were a lot of fun. But I guess some of the main lessons, I used to take players and cheerleaders and mascots to tour international countries, the Philippines, down to South Africa. So that was, weird to be paid to do things like that as a job, because it was pretty fun. And working with one of the world's best brands, of course, it was fairly easy. I mean, the NBA is a highly respected, powerful brand, So it gave you a lot of power to be able to work with that brand. One of the lessons I learned most was after a while I realized that, and it's relevant to to Good Talent Media and to this conversation, because content was probably talked about more than basketball. Yeah. You think you're the head of a basketball league and working for it, and you are, but you quickly sort of realize that when you're at a game, really you're the audience, and that's the stage, and they're filming it, and you're part of the content. And the success of the NBA and all these sports leagues is how well they use that content and chop it up and dice it and sell it to the TV networks. The sponsors want to get a piece of that content. Everyone's trying to sort of, leverage the NBA. So I love basketball, and that was one of the key lessons from my 12 years there that I brought into disability, because disability has great content too. But usually the services are not well equipped at all in capturing that content and using it well. And that's where, the relationship with you guys has been so helpful, because I feel like we've got great stories, and that content can find an audience. Sometimes good news stories are not easy to get out there, are they, guys? If it leads, it leads. We all know the sayings. But if you're clever, there's a lot of rich content in the disability space, and it's been good to work with other people and try to get good at using that content cleverly.
Yeah, well, it's an emotion cycle, not a news cycle. So if you can have emotional content, that kind of works. So, but what about, Phil, you're different. You're different to most people we work with. You've got a mindset. You've got a bit of a success mindset. You don't mind doing things differently. And we do a lot in this sector: for purpose, not for profit, for purpose, profit. And I think, and John, you can probably relate to this. We deal with a lot in this sector: aged care, a lot of vulnerable cohorts, a lot of the tough sectors. Journalistically, we call it issues rich. But we don't, John, often come across leaders that are with the success mindset like Phil. They're quite the opposite. You've got, we're not for profit. We're not capable of anything. We don't really want to try anything. We don't want to take any risks. It's very different in dealing with Phil, and as a result of doing things differently, you get different results.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think I'm optimistic. Yeah, I think I drive my family a bit mad because bit glass half full. It certainly helps to be half full. I think in the disability space, I get daily reality checks, on how lucky I am. Yeah, that doesn't hurt any of us, I think. Phoebe has her own issues in life and needs a lot of support and can't cross the road, etc. And yet I am usually reminded how lucky we are that Phoebe can do all those things. There's that saying, there's always someone worse off, is so very true. And if you're reminded by that, so it does help to feel lucky, privileged, all those things. I've always felt positive, I guess. But, it certainly does help, I think. I would struggle, I think, to work somewhere that didn't have some positive energy flowing around it. I do try and bring that every day, but I don't have to try too hard, guys. I sort of feel, when you get to, and I guess I hope it is infectious like that, Tony, like you say, because I want to have people around me who can feed off that or contribute to it and not drag you down. There's There's some real challenges, of course, that are out there, but you don't want to be paralysed by them. So I do feed off positive energy.
And tell us about your daughter. Tell us about Phoebe.
Yeah, sure. Well, Phoebe was born in Hong Kong, and it was our second child. We had our son in London, and he was a healthy baby boy doing all the things or hitting all the milestones, etc. Phoebe was very different right from the outset. So she was underweight, looked a little different. Didn't walk till she was 4.5. So she would scoot along on her knees. Didn't make a sound, from the moment she was born. So no crying. Those monitors, you're attached to a baby's room so you can listen to them. They're not much good if your kid's nonverbal, I can tell you that. Didn't feed well. Anyway, so we were knew we were on a different path, but no idea what path that was. And it took 3 or 4 years till we got a diagnosis. And that was initially the first words were global developmental delay. And I remember hearing, bloody hell, global developmental delay. What's that mean? That's all. And I thought to myself, well, if a train is delayed, it still gets to the station, just gets there a bit later, That was naive at the time. And really, that their global developmental delay, cognitive impairment, they're all words that describe intellectual disability. Yeah. And as I have learnt, it's one of the largest groups inside disability that's the least heard from. And that sounds a bit ironic in Phoebe's situation, given that she's nonverbal. But it is a large camp. Inside the NDIS at the moment, there's 600,000 people inside the NDIS. 30 to 32% of those are in the intellectual disability camp. And we don't hear from many of them. Of course, only a very tiny percentage of that group are nonverbal. Phoebe hears well, she's social, she's very happy. Her default switch is pretty happy, yeah. Her in terms of entertainment and things she likes to do with her time, she's 22 now. She's 22. But her entertainment choices are still the Wiggles or My Little Pony. Yeah, and anyone who's had kids is probably familiar with some of those. How'd you like that for 22 years? Jeez. But also Taylor Swift, Missy Higgins, she'll, we went along to see Missy Higgins the other night. She went and saw Taylor Swift. So she's into adult things as well, but can be some things she's got, guys, that I wish we all had. She can watch the same video, endless times and receive the same joy as the first time. What a wonderful. She shows me the video and says, "Look at this, Dad, look at this." And it's the thousandth time she's done that.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes I'll just, privately roll my eyes. But it's wonderful that these things keep giving her that sort of joy. So Phoebe's in the intellectual disability camp. She's 22. She can get up and walk around. She's mobile. She has some, fine motor control, vision issues, but she's pretty healthy and happy. And as I said, we feel very lucky.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of Missy Higgins and Taylor Swift. And what was the concert like? I wanted to go. The wife wouldn't go, so I should have went anyway. But I heard it was amazing.
I didn't take her to Missy Higgins. She went with a carer, along with, 100,000 other people to Melbourne. And just being part of, if you're at the MCG with 90,000 people or whatever else, there's something exciting about being amongst it like that. And she's very enthusiastic. So luckily for us, she's not shy about those things. She's not scared of crowds. She can get a bit overwhelmed by noise, and you got to keep your eye on her because she'll just duck off at any minute. But I love Missy Higgins too. And in fact, she introduces me to some new music sometimes too. So it's, I've learned, this sounds corny, guys, and you'll say you learn things from your kids, and you do. Yeah. But I've probably learnt more from Phoebe than from her brother. Oliver progressed pretty normally. He's 6'10". He's a bloody athlete. He can catch a ball, and now he's playing. He had a college scholarship to America and for basketball, and played NBL for a couple of years, and now he's signed up on the Richmond list, as an AFL player, and loving it. And it's fun following an elite athlete's path, if you like, through my son. But it's just as it's more educational, to be honest, following Phoebe's road, because that's led me to this job. There's no way I'd be doing this job if it wasn't for Phoebe, and it's the best job I've had. So I worked in sports, and sports are great, but there's something special about helping people, and most of us are looking for purpose and mission and something like that. So I certainly feel that a lot more in this job than working for the NBA, because Michael Jordan did not need my help. No. I think that's fair to say.
And what was it like, Phil? Because I know when your son went to the US, you followed him there essentially to help him settle. Took a 6-month sabbatical in Southern California. What was that like?
Yeah. He was really nervous about going. It's funny. We had one of those, if you've seen Jerry Maguire, you guys, great film, Show Me the Money, Jerry Maguire. He had 3 schools that were chasing him, offering him this free scholarship. And they flew us to America to visit. And it's weird getting off a plane. My wife and I went over with Oliver, and these schools are smoozing you, to sign your kid up. And then we came home and said, okay, you need to make a decision, Ollie. These guys are waiting. And his answer was, I'm not going. He got a bit scared by the whole thing, which is understandable. And I said, mate, I love you and you're an adult, but you're going. This is too good not to go. And we'll to make it easy, we'll come with you. Yeah. So we packed up and all. I took a sabbatical and took Phoebe out of school and became a primary carer. And we were in California, like an hour east of Los Angeles, in not a great UCL, one of those UC schools. So not UCLA, but UC Riverside. It's part of the UC network of schools, and did that for 6 months. And that was pre-COVID, guys. I came back in February 2020. Hadn't heard the word COVID. So I was lucky to get a break, I guess, before the world changed. Yeah, so it was fun going over with him. But college sports has a thing, doesn't it? We all think of cheerleaders and, I don't know, the crowds and, the fantasy of college sports. But his 2 years were very different with COVID. No crowds, a lot of games getting called off left, right and centre. He didn't like the academic side of it at all, the classes and everything. So that's why after 2 years he pulled the pin, and went to play NBL. But it was a great experience and fabulous to get a sense of America. And California is every state's a bit different. And California is sure a bit different from some of the other places in America. So it was wild.
I've got some speed questions for you. Like, I know the whole sector's, rightly outraged about the price guide changes, and the sector's in a lot of trouble. So I've got some speed questions and see what you think. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready, Tone. Yep.
Okay, Bill Shorten.
Well, the face of the NDIS, isn't he? And he's got the job to clean up the mess now, and I think he's doing his best. But man, it's tough. The costs are out of control. When they were not in power and the Libs were running it, the Libs said the costs are out of control. And I think the Labor Party said, oh, rubbish, show me the numbers, you don't know what you're doing. And when they got in control, in the driver's seat, they came to the same conclusion. So he's got a lot of work to do. He's trying. He's I think it's, he's losing some skin in the game as he goes, because it's not easy getting everybody on side in this exercise. And once you've given something to someone, it's very hard to take it away from them. And I wouldn't want that job. So I feel sorry for Bill. I think he's doing his best. The theory's easy. The practice is hard. And I hope he can pull it off. How's that for an answer, Tony?
I should have said speed answers. Sorry.
That was a good answer, Phil. I liked it.
I think politically Albanese is throwing an opponent under the bus. Like, he's still, I know he's a failed prime ministerial aspirant twice, right? So technically no one can try a third time, but he's a powerful opponent inside his own party. So what do you do with those? You give them the toughest portfolios, and so he looks like a mess. So I think politically that's what's happening. Okay, speed answers. The care economy.
Care economy, yeah. You're hearing that phrase more and more, aren't we? My mum is in aged care. I work in disability. I know they're trying to align these things more over time. I employ 250 support coaches, who could, some of them have come from aged care. The awards are different, the conditions are different, but there's obviously a lot of synergy. And I think it does make sense to think of those divisions as part of something larger in the care economy. So it's I think we're going to hear more and more about that. I can imagine the ministers and the federal, state levels and politicians starting to sort of overlap instead of having a minister for disability and someone else for aged care. I think they should be seen in the same light, even though I know there are some big differences. The workforce should be able to move between one and the other without, changing awards. You need the same police checks, go think about COVID and flu shots, whether they should be mandatory or not. All those things are in common. So I think we'll see a lot more of that phrase and them being considered in the same breath. And we saw it through COVID, guys, that, it was all about aged care and COVID got into a couple of places and it was terrible, but it was suddenly like they've got to get immunised or vaccinated. And when they did the rollout, the people that did the vaccination shots went into town, did the aged care place and then left to the next aged care place, People with disability left sitting around the room going, what about us, So we've got to start treating that group. And I know there are differences. Hey, within disability, there's enormous differences with the different camps. But, yeah, we're going to hear a lot more about that.
Dodgy providers.
Ooh. Gee, your questions are nice and neat and short, and my answers are sort of, a bit of a rant and a bit all over the place. But anyway, dodgy providers. Yeah, well, Bill Shorten, your first question's calling some of those guys out, isn't he? Which is good because there are some. Anytime the government throws a bunch of money at something, sadly, people look to take advantage, and this is no different. We've fired some staff, and it's disappointing to see those staff then leave us and then go out and set up under an ABN and continue working in the space with no checks or oversight, etc. So at the moment, as you guys will know, there's about 190,000 unregistered providers working in the NDIS and 15,000 registered providers. So we're registered. Wallara has been registered for, ever. And we think auditing and all that helps us be better. It's not perfect, of course, and you can still be a dodgy provider and be a registered provider. I accept that. And we just had the Disability Royal Commission where we heard lots of terrible stories that have happened. But there are dodgy providers out there, and we need to clear them out, and they should pay a big price.
Yeah. Last one from me. John might have some too. The NDIS price guide. The thing that gets released on, the 30th of June, which starts effective on the 1st of July. The thing that the sector sits around waiting desperately for, and that the agency keeps telling you will come out earlier next year, and doesn't. So it is, I don't know what's the word, shocking, really, to think of all the line items and the prices and how much I charge for this and that. The theory of the NDIS, again, is pretty easy, isn't it? Instead of state-by-state systems that maybe go broke in one state, or if you have a condition and you live in this town or that town in Australia, the response from the government should be, consistent. And of course, it wasn't. It was state by state. It was terrible. So if we fold that into one federal system, that makes a lot of sense. And it's ambitious, and Australia's done it. But the price guide is what is set. The NDIA sets the prices. So I don't know if people out there really understand that, but there's maximum prices that are set. You can charge under that, but you can't charge over it. And I laughed at the start here because a lot of those prices are based on modelling, and the modelling shows they don't cover the cost of actually delivering some of these services. So
You've got people screaming about that, and there's a lot of stress in the sector at the moment because of those prices. I hope one day, guys, that we get to set our own prices on some of these things. That's a market. If I think my service is worth $100 an hour and down the road wants to do it at $60 an hour, then they should have the right, and consumers can choose. But at the moment, they're pushing the price down and squeezing everybody, and so we don't have a true market at all. And sadly, that means people will start cutting corners and getting dodgy. So the price guide is something we wrestle with every day, Tony.
Yeah, one from me, Phil, a bit easier than Tony's. Deadpool or Wolverine?
Well, I'm watching Ryan Reynolds at the moment, who is the Deadpool guy, isn't he?
Yes,
inside the costume.
That's right.
And he bought Wrexham, that soccer team, didn't he?
Yeah, from North Wales. So I'm a Welshman. So I'm very interested.
Your turf, John. Yeah. What a great TV series. Have you seen some of that series, John?
Yeah, do you know, I love it. Some of my colleagues back home, Rob Phillips, the BBC reporter, are in it and stuff, Phil. So I absolutely love watching it, because when I was there, they didn't have any of this success. They were doing it tough. The Supporters Trust was in charge, and they were going for survival. So to see them thrive now is fantastic.
What a great story. My wife is enjoying that as well. I said, let's watch this. She doesn't like sports. She says, no bloody way. Oh, maybe because it's Ryan Reynolds and he's cute to look at. So we started watching it, and she's enjoyed it immensely. I love the way they're telling that story. Real life, documentary. But Hugh Jackman is, he should run for Prime Minister or something. How can you not love Hugh Jackman?
It's pretty hard. And you're talking documentaries there. Phil, we never know who's going to listen to this. You've got an idea for a documentary. Please tell us a bit about it.
Okay. Yeah, nice segue. Thank you. Well, The Farm is this amazing thing, as you'll see, and Tony knows. It's 40 acres on the Mornington Peninsula. Heritage buildings, a lake, beautiful farm animals, gardens, etc. And it's beautiful. And it's run now by 85 people with disabilities, including my daughter, and coaches. So it's open to the public 7 days a week. There's a cafe there with chefs who are training our clients. And the car park's full every day with public who are pouring through. And it's this wonderful sort of oasis. It's 40 minutes from Melbourne, Sage's Cottage Farm on the Mornington Peninsula. You can Google it and check it out. It's open 8:30 to 3:30, and great food, coffee, and gardens and grounds to walk through. And I think it's one of the best things. In terms of legacy, you think about legacy. I'm in this job for a long time, but that's one thing I'll look back at and be very proud about, because Wallara owns it and operates it, and it's fun seeing it develop over time. So on the documentary side, John, yes, I would love a camera crew to come in there and set up shop, and let's tell the story about disability inclusion, at this place. And let's meet the clients with intellectual disability, find out about their lives, what's life like at home, what do they get out of the farm, who do they want to be when they grow up, what's it like to work in this sector, and what is the magic that happens at the farm where the public are pouring through the place, 7 days a week. How is that educating people around disability? So I'd love to see a camera crew. Come on down, call me.
Thanks, Phil. The challenge is out there. Sounds good, Tony, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, I'm visualizing a microbrewery in a vineyard. I don't mean to sound bougie, but that sort of stuff will get me there for sure.
And I love some of those other, shows like that. Wrexham, in a way, is what goes on inside a football club, what goes inside a hospital, the patients, the people that work there, border security, what are those jobs like? Who's pouring through, trying to sneak things through in their bags? The farm has endless stories every day, and it's visually beautiful. So I hope we can get that off the ground.
Yeah, get a sense of what it means to the community and the people involved. That's always my favourite part of a documentary, is what these things mean to people, Phil. That always comes through, But sorry, Tony, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
So what's your dream, Phil, for Phoebe and the 200,000 people like her in the country?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the moment, Phoebe's 22. Her brother has moved out of home with his girlfriend. So at the moment, we are starting the process, and it's scary for any kid, especially people with disabilities, to leave home, and move out of home. At some point, that's going to happen for every kid, in the family home. And often in disability space, the parents, of course, hang on maybe for a whole lot longer than usual. And sometimes I think too long. Yeah. And then it's suddenly crisis situation. The kids are 45 or 50, never left home. And the parents, as you get older, I think the world becomes a bit scarier, and it's even harder to trust people the older you are. Yeah. And I don't want that to happen to us. I'm 60 now. The reality is that, in the next, few years or at some point, Phoebe needs to move out of home, and it's rite of passage. It's not right for adults to hold these kids back. Yeah, she needs to experience life and be an adult and be cared for. Of course, she'll always have support. I can't imagine her guys living independently. She will live in a house where there is a carer. Yeah, like we support 42 residents now across supported accommodation. So I sort of know the sort of house that Phoebe will live in with some friends, and it'll be great. So, she volunteers at Vinnie's now on a Monday and helps that op shop with work in the place, and loves that. She was at the farm the other 4 days. She's got friends and does things on weekends and family, and we've got 2 dogs, and so the idea of her having her life near us and coming home on weekends and birthdays and going on holidays, she will always be together, but I think it's important she has some separation and independence at some point. So we're trying to prepare her and ourselves for that. Yeah, Tony, if that makes sense. I mean, outside of living away from home, she's had a boyfriend. Oh, yes. Phoebes would love another boyfriend. If there's anyone out there who's interested, apply at no. But she had a boyfriend, a great relationship for about a year. They broke up, and I hope she finds someone as good as that young man was too. So, all these things you hope for your kids as they get older. So we'll see. I don't know if she'll work. I don't know. And when I say that, I'm sitting here in a warehouse where we employ 250 people with disabilities across our group. So I see lots and lots of different people with different levels of capability, doing jobs. I don't know if Phoebes has the concentration or desire to work really, but she loves volunteering and being part of the farm, and she feels like she works at the farm and at Vinnie's. And she's proud about what she does. So whether it's a social purpose or a job, either of those things, reason to get out of bed and feel good about what you do with your day. That's what I'd like, Tony.
Of course. Well, it's a privilege to work with you, tell your stories, be part of your journey and your team, a small part of it. John and I and the rest of the team, feel super privileged to be part of your journey,
Definitely.
Phil. And thanks so much for joining us on the Media Chat Room.
Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you, Phil.
If you're inspired to increase your profile and strengthen your brand, a Good Talent Media story creation meeting could be a great place to start. You'll meet some of our key team members and do a deep dive into your brand's possibilities. We'll give you tools and strategies to implement straight away. Email info@goodtalent.com.au with the title Story Creation to get yours today.